Yo, what's up, guys? Skorch the Fears episode, I think 39. We got Logan Manzanares. Is that how you say your name? Is it
Yep,
Manzanares?
close enough.
Logan Manzanares out of the great state of Montana, an absolute beast. What'd you think of that intro? I'm like gonna
Dude,
keep.
that was freaking amazing. Seriously, I was like, oh, this is cool.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy about it. Marco Riviera, I keep shouting him out because he set up all the new logo and all the new stuff with it. So I'm pretty happy about it. Like it's been good. It's been fun. But yeah, man. So I'm just gonna start you off. So first off, tell people kind of like where you are in your business right now, what you're doing, just like for all the people who don't know you. Like what
Yeah,
is business right now?
yeah. So business right now in the real estate arena, we are buy and hold only. So we
Mhm.
don't do any wholesaling. We don't do any fix and flipping. We hold property, and so we hold a lot of our portfolio here in the big great state of Montana. But we also have properties in Arizona. We have properties in Ohio. We have properties in New York. We'll have one in Massachusetts as of tomorrow, and Virginia as well. And we have another one in the pipeline in Pennsylvania as we speak. So,
I love it. I love it. So why? Why not do other things other than buy and hold? Why only buy and hold?
you know what? So in the real estate arena, that is where I've focused our energy and attention, is because I believe in the long term game of real estate. It's been something that I've seen not only in my personal experience, but I've seen the people who are really wealthy, like they own real estate and they've owned it for a really long time. And it's not only a great place to park your money, but you can earn cash flow along the way. It's very flexible in the aspect of you can get your money out in creative ways without having to sell the property that you really like, the tax benefits of it. But ultimately, like there's no way that if I buy a property today, unless I just buy it terribly, terribly bad, that in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, that it won't be worth a lot more just because somebody's paying the debt down on that property. It Real estate tends to go up, and so it's one of the greatest like wealth building plays you can ever have. And so the moment I got into real estate, I've heard from so many people over and over again that they're like, I wish I wouldn't have sold that property. I wish I wouldn't have sold this property. That's the only thing I ever hear from people. Like,
So
so the
true.
only regrets. So I'm like, okay, I'll just listen to them.
I love it. No, you're 100% right. Like I keep hearing that and over again, like from people who flip and wholesale. I'm like, man, I'm probably screwing up right now. But you know, you gotta do what you gotta do. But I like it.
Yep.
I like that's how you started. That's how you're keeping to it.
Yep.
So, how are you acquiring properties right now? Are you getting them from wholesalers or
Yep. So let me go back a little bit too, because if people are watching this, they're like, well, I want to do that. You can't do that, right? You can't just buy a property because you actually need
immediately?
income. You need some grocery and some gas money,
Right.
right? You need somebody to buy sushi every now and then, and so you
Right.
got to have some sort of active business or some sort of W-2 job, something like that. And so like we have other businesses, we
Hmm.
have active income, and so but that allows us to go like in the real estate arena specifically. That allows us in that arena to just focus on the whole aspect.
What are
So
your other businesses?
yeah, we have a residential cleaning business. Um,
Hmm.
we had a fitness business for 10 years. We actually just got out of that business probably 4 months ago, but that
Hmm.
was a great contributor to giving us the opportunity to invest in real estate. We also have a property management business that basically has just been a add-on to because we manage our properties now, and I do a little bit of lending as well. Again, these are all opportunities that just have sprung up from our existing businesses.
I
So
love it. Also, guys, he's completely jacked. I don't know if anyone's noticing that right now. This guy shirtless is literally like burns my eyes. He scorches my eyes with his abs. Everybody, we'll get your Instagram out there, but they'll see
there
it
you
in
go.
a very, very shortly how absolutely jacked you are. But okay, now I'm gonna start into a part that I like about the podcast where I really get into your story, right?
Cool.
So you started with entrepreneurship, not in real estate. Which of those ventures did you start with?
Yeah. So when I was 16 years old, I found lifting weights, as you can tell, right? And
Mm,
so this body you see was not built overnight. Uh, and when I found it, though, it wasn't necessarily the muscles and the strength that really attracted me to it, but it really was the sense of control I had. Because at 16 years old, as being a male, 16 years old, you could probably um, you probably experience this as well, is that like we're not really in control of anything in our lives. Like we get told what to do, we get
right.
told when to go to class. like we get told this and that and that, and we don't have any money, so we're literally at the hands of our parents. And I just did not feel like I was in control of anything in my life. Plus, I was going through puberty, which anybody goes through puberty. Like I had a very ugly duckling stage in my life,
That's not true.
and I
You can
I
stay
hated
modest. He was never
myself.
ugly.
Yeah, no, it was bad, man. I'll go find pictures. Look, it was legit bad. I look at it now, I'm like, oh my gosh, no wonder I was mad.
I love it.
So anyway, I found fitness, and it gave me that sense of control. It gave me the feeling of like, man, if I just actually show up when I do the workouts, I'll actually be able to change something in my life. So when I graduated at 17 years old, and in my yearbook, I put in there that I want to be a personal trainer. I was like, I want to help people. Like I felt it, I felt called, and I was like, I want to share this with other people because I'm sure other people are feeling that same thing. So since I was 17 years old, I knew I wanted to be a personal trainer in the fitness industry. And so when I went to college for exercise science, got my degree, and then I was a one-on-one personal trainer at like 22 or 23 years old.
Nice.
Did that for about 2.5 years, and then I actually started my own business at 25. So at 25 years old, I started my own gym.
And why?
The reason why I started it was because at that time, so that was 2013, there was no other place that there was no like private gym in my town. So I live in a relatively small town, about 50,000 people, and there was no like strength
Bozeman,
training gym.
Montana,
What's
right?
up?
Bozeman, Montana.
Yep, in Bozeman, Montana. Yep. And so there was no strength training gym in Bozeman. And I didn't want to go work for a CrossFit. So it was either CrossFits or other big box gyms. And I was training my clients how to do things like deadlifts and how to do bench press and how to do squats and kind of like that. Again, like nowadays, you see it in all the commercial gyms. Like you actually see bumper plates and you see people doing that kind of stuff. In 2013, like that was actually not the case. It was like, oh, that's a CrossFitter. You're a CrossFitter. Like get out of our gym in the big commercial gyms. And like commercial gyms and then CrossFitters hated commercial gyms. Like there was no middle ground like there is now. And so I was like looking around and there was no other places for me to go work at. And so I was like, screw it. I guess I'll just go do my own thing. Right. I actually didn't want to do my own thing, but I felt called for my clients to give them an environment that they could actually like go lift weights and not be judged. So I started 2013 and yeah, man, I struggled. I like beat my head against the wall for 3 years trying to figure out business because what I thought business was not what it actually was.
Right.
Yeah. So it was literally 3 years. Me like basically I would work. It was just me, right? Just me, and I would hire like probably 1 or 2 trainers who would help a little bit, help like take a session here and there. But I would get up at 5 in the morning. I would train in the morning. Then I would basically a nap in the middle of the day. I would lift myself from like 1 to 3, and then I would do another block from like 4 to 8 p.m. And I do that Monday through Friday. Right, that was like that was my schedule every single day. And on the weekends is when I actually worked on my business. So that's when I was trying to figure out, well, how do I get clients? How do I do marketing? What is sales? Like I didn't know any of that stuff when I got into business. I literally just was like, I had a client base from the gym I trained at, and I lost about half of them when I started my own thing. I just lived really frugally. I didn't spend any money, and I made no money. So I did that for about 3 years.
Nice, gotcha. So okay, you were personal trainer. You work for other gyms, and then you like bought a location type of thing, like was a gym or
Yep. So
rented a location?
I started like in a big box gym. Think of like 24/7 Fitness or
Okay.
Planet Fitness or something like that. It was like a big box gym, right? So I was a personal trainer. I worked for that gym for about 2.5 years, and then I finally left and I found a spot to rent. And I co-leased it with another guy who did mixed martial arts, and he did like self-defense. So we shared this probably 800 square foot carpet box for $200 a month. It was insane. And it's funny, I paid the $200 a month. Like he arbitraged. He got the lease and he made me pay the rent. Right. It was great.
Hilarious.
And so that's how it all started, man. That's literally how it all started.
Okay. So then what was your greatest lessons in those times? So like you're by yourself, you might have one other trainer, but like what's a better question than that? Like what was the biggest struggle while that was happening?
So what I thought going into it was that because I was so passionate about fitness and I was actually really good at training people, I thought the clients would just come, right? The old Kevin Costner thing, if you build it, they will come. Well, I built this gym and people didn't come. And so for the first 3 years, I got really good at just keeping the clients I had. And so I trained clients for 5, 6, 7, 8 years, man. Like I trained clients for a really long time because I had to. Like honestly, I had to because I didn't know how to go get clients. And I actually didn't think about that before I started the gym because I was just so focused on serving my current clients, I didn't have a plan to get new clients. And I just got really fortunate. I had referrals. I had random walk-ins, random people who saw what I was posting on social media. But outside of that, like I didn't have a ton of clients. I didn't have a script. I didn't even know what I was going to charge them when they came in the door. And so those first 3 years was me, number one, recognizing that I'm in business now. And so if it's time for me to like go from a personal trainer to a business owner, I needed to learn these other skill sets. And so
Hmm.
at that point, I had just learned how to train people. I knew how to get people results. I knew how to get people to like lift heavier weights and to lose body fat. But I hadn't learned the other skills of business. And so the first 3 years, that's what I was doing. I was continuing to perfect my artist skill of being a trainer, but then on the weekends and on the side, I was learning my skills of being a business owner.
Hmm. Okay. So what were some of those? You said sales and like what, so how did it start changing? So keep going with the
Yeah.
story. So you eventually learned sales and
Yep.
then you got more clients.
So I started once I actually read this book. It was called The E Myth, and
Hmm.
I remember reading that book. I was sitting at my oldest daughter. It was her birthday, and I'm sitting there at a swimming pool, and I'm reading this book, and it's a story about this gal who has a pie shop, and she's the pie. She gets up early, she bakes the pies, she sits there, and she serves her customers all day long. And then she's the one who cleans up. She's the one who does the books. She's the one who does literally everything. And then she goes to bed at 10 o'clock at night. She's got to get back up at 4 o'clock and do it all over again. I was just
Hmm.
like, oh my gosh, that's me just in the gym. And through that book, he starts to tell you about how to systematize things, how to automate things, how to create job description, everything you do, and then how to hire somebody to bring somebody else in and do it. And at that moment, I finally had hope and realization that like, oh, there's a better way. I don't have to do all these things,
Right.
right? And so once I had that belief, then I just did what the book said, right? I started making like a basically an organization chart of all the duties that I did, and you know what? I put my name next to every single one of them. And then I started to realize that, you know what, there
You made an
is
org chart.
yeah, an org chart, right? And so that kind of gave me the inspiration to start looking at, okay, now I got to figure out, well, how do I get customers? And when I get customers, what do I say to them to get them to buy? And when they buy, what is the process that I can teach somebody that when they come on and they become a client? And then when they're a client, what sort of service do I expect from them every single month for them to continue to become a recurring client?
Hmm.
And it was through that process that I started to seek different specific programs and trainings that I found on the internet, right? And so even that was like, again, that was like 2014, 15, 16 was when I was kind of doing all the discovery. And then I was finding like little courses here and there. And then 2017 is when everything, like, that's when my business actually finally took off.
So that's 3 years.
Yeah.
So you're doing, so like 2013, you're just starting with a few clients.
Yeah.
And then over 3 years, you're very slowly hiring people, learning how to do it. And then like what made it take off?
Yeah. So it was like 2017. I had a staff of, I think, 3 trainers. I had about 36 clients, and we were doing probably $4,000 to $5,000 a month in revenue. So like all my trainers were extremely part time, like extremely part time. They were literally just people who love to lift and they love to help people. And that was the
Right.
benefit of being in the fitness industry, is that people will literally work for free.
Right.
So that kind of helped me have a little bit of help. And then in 2017, I was scrolling through Facebook, and this ad came across my computer, and it said, "I will fill your gym in 30 days for free." I was just like,
Hmm.
interesting, right? So I clicked into it, and then I read some of the testimonials, and I was like, dang, this actually seems pretty cool. So I opted in, went to schedule a call, and all the call times were full, right? I was like, oh, that sucks, right? And then probably 3 months later, I get this message from this guy named Alex. And I was like, oh, I think he was the guy they were talking about. And so we ended up messaging back and forth, and he put me on the calendar. And 2 days later, I was talking to his assistant, actually. And I remember getting on the phone, actually thinking it was going to be him, but it was his assistant, and started asking me questions about how big my gym was, how much revenue I did, how long I've been in business for. And all of a sudden, I felt like I was getting interrogated. I felt like, am I going to qualify for this?
Right.
And she's like, okay, well, I think I'm gonna book you a call with Alex, right? And I was like, okay, cool. She's like, but his schedule is so full. The only time he has available is 8 a.m. on Saturday morning. Can you do that? I was like, sure, I'll make it happen. Right. So I think that was a Friday. So the very next morning, I sat in my wife's house. So at the time, me and my wife, at the time, we were not yet husband and wife. We were just dating. And I sat in her bedroom at 8 o'clock in the morning, sit on a phone call with this guy named Alex. And he's telling me about this program, about this thing called Gym Launch. And he told me about the offer. And I'm just like getting so freaking excited. It's like, it's starting to make sense. All this, like all the learning
Is
and
this
all
Alex
the
Hermosi?
Alex Hermosa. Yeah,
Nice.
exactly.
That's sick.
And so
Yep.
all the things that are starting to like that I had learned and that I had been putting together, he just started like telling me like in a systematic, like directly for the gym way. I'm just like, oh my gosh, like this is it. Right. I'm like, I
Nice.
was like, I got so excited. And then I can remember this moment in our call. And I was like, okay, well, what's the price? Right. I was like, this sounds really good. Like, what's the price? And the day before I had told my wife, because she had asked me, or Katie, again, who was my wife at the time, she had said, look, how much do you think it's going to cost? And I was like, I have no idea. The lady on the phone said it was a 4-figure investment. So I'm thinking it's going to be like, $2,000 or $3,000. Right. But after getting on the call, then I was like, okay, I think there's probably a little bit more, maybe like closer to 5. And then Alex drops, he drops the price on me, and he told me it was 10K. And my heart just was like, it sank. I didn't say a word. I just sat there for, it seemed like forever. It was probably like 10 seconds, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, what are my options? And so we went through a couple options. None of them seemed great, right? I think the one that he presented was you can just pay it all up front, of course, or it's like if I finance you, then you got to pay an extra 2,000, or if you pay half now and then half in 30 days. I think that's the best option. And so I remember sitting there like still like it was one of those moments like it was like
A quarter revenue.
I was like, should I just like make an excuse up, or should I go for it? And I just said, fuck it. I'm just like, let's do it. Like that's what I said. And he's like, okay.
What
And
made you
then
do that in that moment? Because those moments are so important. I had a
mhm,
very similar moment with real estate where,
yeah,
like, I think I had made $10,000 to my name. This was like 2 years ago when I was just getting into real estate. I think I made $2,000 or $10,000 in my entire life because I graduated college and then I went into the Peace Corps I started with astro flipping. So I'd heard about Jamil, and there was like a moment like that where it was like a couple $1,000s, and I'm like, well,
yeah,
screw it. So for you, like, why'd you do
yeah.
that?
I think it was just a buildup of like, do you believe in yourself? Right. So it wasn't about Alex. It wasn't about the gym. It was just like that belief in myself. And I was like, do I believe that I can make this happen? And I said, let's do it. Let me challenge myself, make it happen. And I remember leaving. So that morning, he was like, hey, I'll get you access to this thing by the afternoon, and you can start working on it literally this afternoon. And if you set the system up, like you can start making sales by next week. And I was like, because the whole point of the system was that it was actually going to pay for itself. And I was like, okay, but I had already planned to help one of my buddies move that day, who was somebody who I lifted with. I planned to help him move. He lived like 25 miles away. And I was like, again, in my head, I was like, I should just cancel him, right? But I was like, no, I can't cancel him. I'm going to follow through. And so I remember driving out 25 miles to this guy's house after I just committed this $10,000. And by the way, that was my last 10,000. Like, and that $10,000 was under my pillow. Like, I kept it in like a Crown Royal
You kept it
basket.
literally under your pillow?
I literally kept it under my pillow. Like
Why?
that's
Why
how
wasn't it in a bank account?
exactly. Because I didn't trust the banks, man. Like it was like it was my last 10K. It was like literally just sitting
And
under my
you're
pillow.
like,
It's
and
like
the banks might like collapse. Like, that's so funny. You
I
just
didn't
felt
want
like
anyone to
having
know.
it in
Yeah,
cash.
I didn't want anyone to know about it. I was like that 10K. I was setting that 10K away for something. I just didn't know what it was for, and like that was that
Hmm.
moment. So I remember driving out there, and I cried, dude. As soon as I got my pickup, I just like started crying, and in that moment, I was like, my life is going to be different. It's either going to be either going to lose my gym because again, that was all my money, or I was going to go to the moon. And I spent all day out there helping my buddy move, and the whole time I was just like thinking about this thing I did, and like was it a good move? Was it not a good move? Actually, I wasn't thinking about it was a good move. Now I was just like, I want to get to my computer so I can start working on it. And I ended up getting to my computer probably like 4 o'clock that afternoon. I didn't even go home. I just went straight to my gym, and I got one from 4 p.m. to about midnight. I just got through as much material as I could. Went back to my house, got up early, and so that must have been Sunday all day. I went through the material. I got through the whole thing the first time, and then by Tuesday morning, I actually had the whole system up and going. I had
Oh,
ads
damn.
turned on. I sat down with my first prospect on Wednesday, selling a product I literally just learned about a day before, and it was a $500 product that I had no idea. Like at that point, I hadn't sold anything bigger than like a couple $100, right? So it was a $500 to a stranger, and I ended up selling 36 of those $500 packages in the first 5 days.
Amazing. What is that
And
math? That's
I don't even know.
15,000, 16,000. It's about
Yeah,
16,000, I
we
think.
made the money back in the
Yeah.
first 5 days, and then that first month we went on to sell 105 people at
God
$500.
damn, dude. So that was worth the investment.
Yeah, we again the year before we did $50,000, like $60,000, I think the entire year, and we did $50,000 that very first month.
So was it like a course, or was Alex personally helping you? I'm just curious.
Yeah, so I was very fortunate. The timing on it, you couldn't have been better. I was the fifth person that did his last version of Gym Launch. So if you know Alex's story, he did a couple different versions of Gym Launch where he did it like he had his own gyms, and then he used to fly out to gyms, and then he hired guys to fly out to gyms, and then he eventually switched it to where he just taught the gym owners how to do it themselves. And so I was the fifth gym who he taught us how to do it. And so I like Alex was texting me. Actually, we use an app called Voxer, and he
Mhm.
Voxed me almost every single day. And he's the one who definitely pushed me to do like after that first week, I was like, oh, I'm good, man. Like, I was like, I got my money back. That's all I really cared about. And then he was like, if you don't sell 100, you can't get into the next thing, which is called legacy. I was like, well, that sounds really cool. If this is cool, I want to see what that thing is.
Yeah, right?
And so he pushed me to get to like go to the next level, things I would have never done before. And it was definitely like an online, like it was like module based, but then he also did live coaching calls every single day, which was called the daily huddles. We had a community, we had a Facebook community, and then again, we had the early people had access to Alex actually, and he would message us on Voxer and things like that.
That's pretty sick. So,
It was pretty cool.
what do you think was so different about what you did versus when you were trying it on your own? What was the extra?
Yeah, so having somebody who had a literally an end to end process is so valuable. Like everything made sense, and it was so funny because I told my wife I was like, like everything that he said. It wasn't the first time I heard it, but the way he packaged it, that was the gold, right? And
Mhm.
honestly, he had an irresistible offer, right? And the irresistible offer was a thing that allowed us to uh, keep the resistance down on the sales process to cold customers. Because at the end of the day, like sales and marketing is really what that front end package was, and the sales and marketing package he had was world class. It really
Mm,
was.
amazing. That's awesome.
Yeah,
So, okay. So you're the gym's starting to work pretty well. You sell like what'd you say, 100-ish in the first month? You
yeah,
had like 50K in revenue, which is pretty crazy. Then what happens?
yeah. So we were able to kind of continue that success over the next, that was 2017. So yeah, I would say over the next like 2.5, 3 years, like we went through a season in our lives called stack cash, man. Like we were making good money. And so we just started stacking cash and putting it away, putting it away, putting it away. And we were very conservative with our money. Like we didn't go spend it on stupid stuff, never bought anything. And we ended up saving, a couple $100,000. And so that's actually how we got into real estate investing, is that we were sitting on all this cash and we're like, we need to put it somewhere. And I already knew before that I wanted to get into real estate. It just, I didn't ever have the money. So once we had some money in 2019, we bought our first 3 properties, right? And so we did
Mm,
just the traditional way. Somebody who's in real estate is gonna be like, they're gonna like cringe a little bit because we just put down 25% down. We got financing through the banks because we were very lendable, and we did like 8, 9, 10% cash on cash returns. Like that was it
right.
because it wasn't our main thing. And we did that for our first 3 properties in 2019. And yes, that's kind of how we got started into real estate, was by investing, not so much by being active.
I love it. So your main thing was the gym until what? 2019? 2020?
I mean, up until this year, so this we're in
Was it
2020.
literally the Sub 2 mastermind when I met you?
I mean, we were still doing the gym. So we just got out of the fitness industry in April of 2022. So it's only been about 4 or 5 months. So we
Damn.
have just recently gone full bore. I should say I'm full bore into real estate again. Like I said before, we like we do have other businesses. That my wife, she she has people in place, but she's definitely the one who manages the people who run those businesses.
Mhm.
So she's more active in those other businesses than I am.
I love it. So you're doing your thing with the gym, and then your wife, is she also on a gym?
No, so she quit her job in so when all that happened in 2017, she had a full-time job. She worked for a dentist office. She was like an office manager there, pretty much like the highest position you can get in a office without being a freaking doctor.
Right.
And I scooped her up from the dentist office, and I was like, "Hey, you see all the success over here?" She actually came out to the first mastermind. We went to the a mastermind, Alex's first mastermind. There's about 40 of us, all gym owners, in August of 2017. She got to experience, Alex and Layla and everybody else who was in that small group at the time. And I basically sold her on leaving her job and coming and working with me
Hmm.
with the gym. And so, yeah, she left there. I think literally her last day was December 2017. So 2018 on, she was full time with me inside the gym. She started by doing sales, and then she went
Nice.
into doing office, and then she ended up getting pregnant. So then eventually she went out of the gym, and we hired somebody to replace her. So she was like in the gym, and then when she got pregnant, she went out of the gym, and then now she's been back in the business arena anyway for probably she probably was only out of business for about 6 months, and then she got back in.
Talk to me a little bit about like being in business with your partner. Like I feel like this is always something that like people who are married and are like business partners too get these questions. But like I'm always curious about different people's perspectives of like what I'll just start it here. Like what do you think makes it work, right? Like when I think about it, you guys are all around each other, you guys have kids
Yeah,
together. How do you not kill each other?
yeah. I think it's always understanding two things, right? Understanding your core values. And as long as your core values are in alignment and you understand that you're working towards the same thing, a lot of those other things can be handled with tactics. But a lot of
Mm,
times people will try to handle tactics with things that are set at core values, right?
what does
And
that
so what I
mean?
mean by that is like at a core value, let's say that like one of your core values is that you don't complain, right? You're just somebody who like refuses to complain. You always take responsibility, but you're around somebody who's a complainer, and that's just like who they are. And it's not because they're intentionally that way. They just like that's just who they are. Because your core value is that you won't complain. Like you're gonna butt heads with them, no matter what tactics you use. Like you will eventually find a way to resent them.
Hmm.
And so I think it's so important whether it's your spouse or whether it is a business partner. Like you need to have your core values need to be in alignment. Because if they're not, it doesn't matter the tactics, eventually you guys will butt heads. It's kind of the reason why politics are so divisive, is because at the end of the day, we're all the same things. We all want the same things, but because people's values are different, all of a sudden it creates this animosity,
Right.
right?
How do you get your core values on the same page with a partner? Is it something you can do, or is it more like something they already have, or what do you think?
So I think it's and here's the thing: is most people they get into relationships because of attraction
Sexual
or
romance,
lust,
yeah. Yeah.
romance. And Katie and I were never that way. I should say we were never that way, but we got into relationship logically because she already had a kid when I met her, right? So there was that's a whole nother arena
Avenue.
that we can talk about as well. But at the end of the day, like we got into relationship by understanding our core values first, and then we kind of built our love relationship after that. And so
Hmm.
it definitely was more of a logical way to enter a relationship rather than a emotional way. So
Nice.
I think honestly, most people's relationships are just set up 100% wrong. They're just set up on emotion, and then all of a sudden, when the honeymoon period wears off, as we all talk about, we're left there with somebody who doesn't believe the same things we believe. They don't want kids, and we want kids. We want to be rich. They don't care about money. Like all these things start to show up, and they rear their head.
Right. I got that. Okay. So, all right. Very interesting. And then what do you mean by tactics?
Yeah. So like now, once you have the same values, now we actually can talk about like tactical things, like how do you not kill your wife, right? Or how do you not kill your husband, or how do you like not,
Right.
how do you not want to be around somebody? And so, two things is understanding that most people they try to compete with their spouses, and Kate and I definitely like we've had phases of this, but now we've gone through this that we recognize this is for an example, like I'm somebody who gets up early and I work my ass off. Like I'm a hard worker. Kitty's not like somebody who like is ultra aggressive and doesn't want to work really hard. And so when she sees me working hard in the beginning, she's like, I have to work hard because Logan works hard. And that's just not her personality. So she tries to be me. And vice versa. I'm like, man, like Kitty is super she's a super nurturer. Like she's so good with people. Like people just want to be around her. and like people like they like she's magnetic towards people. I'm like, I want to be like that, right? And so then I felt like because I wasn't magnetic, I didn't have that nurturing ability, then I felt less when I was around her when she was doing that stuff. And so we had this like this competition that we were doing, when in reality it's the things that made us a great team is that I am very like aggressive and I'll like do whatever it takes, hardcore style, and Kitty's like the nurturer. And once we started to realize that those are our roles, we stay in our roles, right? Kind of like how Pace talks about the visionary and integrator. Like now Katie and I know that like we stay in our lanes, and anytime that something is it's in my lane, Katie doesn't try to do it, she just gives it to me, and vice versa. Like it's in Katie's line, like, hey, I don't do that, I don't even know what you're talking about. Like sometimes people ask me a question about the business and they'll look at me like I'm stupid. I'm like, I honestly don't know. Like Katie does it. Like there's so many things about our businesses I don't know about, and I choose not to because I don't want to. I don't want to like even give myself the smallest inkling that I know anything to try to take over. I'm like, that's Katie's job, right?
Right.
Or Katie has somebody in like, or Katie hired somebody to take over that, and so like go talk to Kinsey or go talk to Gia or Ray or whoever it is, right? Like I don't know.
I gotcha. And then this is just a question. This is an interesting question for me right now because I'm kind of in your. I have almost exclusively active income business, right? I mean, wholesaling is that's mainly what I do. Sometimes flipping. I own one rental, but like I don't own, and don't own that many.
No.
What do you think? When do you think you should switch from the active income to the passive income, or at least like when do you think is a good time to add that on, or how do you feel about that?
I think again, if you believe in real estate long term, always be looking for the opportunity to acquire and hold property. And I think that's the best answer because it like there is no right or wrong. Like I knew I wanted to buy property in 2015, and it took me till 2019 to buy my very first investment property. So it was like 4 years. But it just really like it just the timing was right then, right? And I was focused on other things. I was focused on my active business, and so but the whole time I was still looking. It just the opportunities didn't present themselves because I was so busy and focused on this thing that I couldn't possibly find opportunities.
Right.
But I'm not saying to ignore them either. If they come up, like, and you can take advantage of them because you have the resources, you have the people, you have the cash, whatever it is, or you can find the cash, or you can find the people, then by all means, I think the earlier you're to buy real estate, the better off everybody will be.
Yeah, 100%. It's like my dilemma right now in the sense that like I definitely because we were talking about this before the show about like I'm thinking about going direct to seller in Colorado, right? Because that's where I want to own property. But I
Yeah.
also could very easily just turn on an agent there and really just like add another revenue stream from that. And I feel like that would be extremely easy to do. And it would just be like an extra active income thing. But that would take me another 4-ish months, 4 to 5 months to set up. And my thing is like, I'm very scared to do both at the same time. This might be a good question from your story is like, when did you decide to start another business? Because it sounds like you had a few businesses. You had the gym, and then when did you decide to start something else?
Yeah. So we had the gym again from 2013 till we didn't start another business until 2020. So, I mean,
Okay.
we spent a long time before we started another business. And again, we had rentals in 2019. We had 3 rentals. They were long-term rentals, so they didn't take much time. I don't consider those businesses. I consider our short-term rent
Right.
now. I consider it all business because we have enough of them that now it makes up like it's big enough now to consider a business. But I think in the beginning, I think focusing is important because once you learn how to do wholesaling or fitness or whatever business you're in, then you can start another business, and it's the same principles. You're just selling a different widget. That's
Right.
really what it is. Right. And so
Yeah,
when
no.
we started a cleaning business, I literally modeled it off our fitness business, and we were able to, like I think this month we're on track to hit $50,000 in that business, and it's not even 2 years
Nice.
old yet.
Nice. And
So
then
it just goes a lot faster.
what parts do you take from each business? Like the systems, I would assume?
Yeah, it's almost every again, like I use the same. I modeled the funnel that we used to get all these clients in the fitness business. I modeled that for our cleaning business, and I just literally changed it so it was for cleaning. But our process to get people on the phone, our lead nurture process, our script, I literally modeled it off the script I knew that worked. I just changed it from selling weight loss to selling cleaning, and like the marketing sales system, it literally works in every business. Now, the back
Mhm.
end was something that we had to learn and struggle with because neither Katie and I had any cleaning experience, had never run a cleaning business, and so Katie went deep on actually learning the fulfillment of running a residential cleaning business. And so we actually got into another mentorship. We hired another mentor for that who taught us that side of things. And
Why did you start that business? Why did you start cleaning business?
Yeah, so you'll find a theme here. We were at a different mentorship with this guy named Chris Crone. Some people know who he is, some people don't. We're part of his mentorship, and he basically showed us his system of how he starts businesses, and he gave us this criteria, right? So the criteria for starting businesses is they must be simple, right? They must be scalable, they must have high profit margins, and they must have a plethora of leads. And the last one is that it must be client focused, right? So those are the 5 things. And so from those 5 things, we basically picked out a bunch of different businesses that we wanted to do or like to do, or that we, that basically fit that criteria. And we ended up coming down, we ended up crossing a bunch off, and we got to 2, right? And the first one was the cleaning business. And the second one was actually Airbnb arbitrage. And so we kind of got to those 2, and we're like, which ones do we pick? And we ended up choosing the cleaning business. And so that's literally how we picked it. And at the same time, we also had, I think, 2 short-term rentals at that time. So it also was able to fit into another business that we had, which is we had 2 short-term rentals at the time, and we could use that business as a way that we didn't have to clean anymore. Or I said my wife didn't have to clean anymore, and we could actually hire people to clean for us. So
I like it. Awesome. Yeah. So, okay. So 2017, the gym starts popping off. Like, how does it develop? Like you hit that 50K month.
Yeah.
Then what? Like, where did it go? Did it just stay in that same gym? Did you own several gyms? Like, what happened?
Yeah, so we ran a couple. So again, then we ended up joining Alex's next program, and he actually learned. So the thing that Gym Launch was a marketing sales system, and then the next thing after that was called Legacy, and that actually taught us how to run a business. So it taught us about actually how to hire people, how to build systems around become an owner, how to be a manager, how to do like team huddles, how to do daily huddles, basically how to run an actual business. So I didn't have to be the one who was doing all the selling, because I made a lot of money, but I also got up at 4 a.m. and I was at the gym till 8 p.m. I was selling my ass off, right? I worked my ass off for a very long time. And it was great, right? But at the end of the day, it's not sustainable. And so basically learned that process, learned a couple other marketing and sales funnels that he had. So I learned how to sell high ticket. So after that one, we actually were selling high ticket stuff over the phone. So we were selling like $2,500 packages. Or I think we started at $2,000, then we ended up selling at $2,500. We actually sold at $3,000 for 12-week programs. So that was a whole nother thing and another skill set we learned how to do. And yeah, like I said, the business we were able to generate lots of revenue in a short amount of time. And we did that for a couple of years. And I just learned business, man. I just learned business, because now when you don't make money, you're like, okay, you're trying to figure out how to make money. Then when you make money, you have new problems, right? So now we had to service a lot of customers. Like we went from having 36 customers in 5 years to we had 100 new clients in a matter of 30 days. And so now I was dealing with like client issues. And when you deal with more clients, more people, they're just more freaking problems.
Right.
And I just got a crash course in dealing with business, and business is just literally solving problems.
Right.
So that was the next couple of years, is just learning how to solve problems and not getting emotional about it. And so now, like when things go wrong in any of our businesses, like it doesn't affect me much. Like I can't say that I'm like totally neutral, but it's pretty hard to ruffle my feathers nowadays. I expect it. I actually expect things to go wrong. When they don't, I'm like, oh, we got lucky. Whereas when you first get into business, you're so naive. You're optimistically naive, right? You just think everything's great. I'm going to be a business owner. I'm going to make so much money, and you get beat down real fast. And that was great. I really look back on those days, and I'm so grateful for those days, because it actually taught me what business actually is. And so now when things do go wrong, because they inevitably will, I expect it now, get right into problem solving mode rather than poor me victimhood. Like, I can't believe this happened to me. I can't believe Jonah would want a refund. I can't believe that my employee would say that to them. I can't believe they would break this and that. I'm like, I expect it. It's like, okay, how do I solve it? I think that's one of the most valuable skills you can have, because ultimately there is no winning and losing business. Like, people think that if you hit $1 million that you've won, or you hit $10 million, you've won. Like, the problems just get bigger. And the point of the game is never to actually hit any numbers. It's just to stay in the game. Like, that is it. Like, that's the game. Like, how do I continue to play the game? And a lot of that is just it's setting goals to keep you excited. It's finding ways to sell yourself on continuing to get excited about the game you're playing.
Right. That's
So
an interesting way to think about it. Like you're setting goals in order to keep yourself in the game. Like
yeah.
explain that more. Like as in if we don't set goals, like we just
Well,
be like, screw this, I'm not gonna do this game. Like what do you mean?
our brains, we always like start and stops, right? It's like we love to do so. I will do something for 6 weeks. Like think about anytime that you go on a diet, you're like I'll do something for 6 weeks.
Right.
Or when I go hard, I'll go hard for a specific period of time because we love certain stops. And so business is no different. It's like I'll cold call really hard for the next, name the duration. It could be 6 weeks, it could be 2 hours, it could be for this week, whatever it is.
Right.
Like really hard for this amount of time. And you basically sell yourself on doing something for a short period of time. And then, but the next game is like, what's the next? Like, so the goal is like, what is the next thing you're gonna do after that? Most people only focus on this thing, and then like, then once they cold call for 6 weeks, they accomplish their goal, but they don't set another goal. And all of a sudden, they're sitting there like, now what do I do? And they end up doing nothing. And they're bored, and they wonder why the business goes backwards because they're not focused on where they're going. And so, a lot of times, you just have to understand that the game continues to go forever. And so,
Right.
being somebody who has been in fitness for a long time, like personally, not even like outside of business, like again, I've been lifting since I was 16 years old. I'm 34, so it's almost
Right.
been 20 years. I have to continue to find ways to get excited about going to the gym every single morning. Like why I live today is much different than when I was 16. It's actually much different than it even was last year. I just like find ways to like challenge myself and have fun with it to
Why?
continue playing the
What is
game.
it different? I think I know the answer to
Yeah.
why somebody lifts when they're 16 versus 34, but like I'm curious, like what's your reason now? What was your reason
Yeah.
when you were 16? What was it like a year ago? Like I'm curious, like the evolution.
Yeah. So what I've learned, what I've learned through this whole process is again, it goes back to what I just said. Is like what I've learned is it's just how do I continue to stay in the game. So I'll give myself sometimes I give myself like these crazy challenges to do. I could tell you some crazy challenges that I've done throughout the last 18 years that have been fun for me and gave me a challenge. But at the end of the day, I always recognize that I just need to show up, right? And so what I've found is like just growth for me is what keeps me going. And so I find ways to get better inside the gym. And honestly, now I tie a lot of what I do into the gym to business. And so instead of listening to music at the gym, I'm listening to like I've listened to almost every single Zoom inside the sub two group because I literally do it while I'm working out.
Hmm.
I'll listen to
Interesting.
podcasts, I'll listen to books. And so I tie a lot of what I do into the gym now to my business, to being a better husband, to being a better father. And so like that's how I kind of sell myself on doing it now. Where in the beginning was just like, how do I get abs? How do I just give my bench press to 315 pounds? How do I deadlift over 500 pounds? Like that's what it was in the beginning. Like my goals have shifted. And so yeah. So to answer your question now, like the reason why I lift now is because I truly believe that I like where my fitness goes is where my business goes. So the more I continue to grow, because my fitness has always been the first thing, it's always been the leader. So like the stronger I get, the more in shape I get, the more physically stronger I get, but also the more emotionally stronger I get, because there's a huge emotional component to fitness as well. Like think about eating. Like eating is relatively simple when it comes to changing your body composition. It's the emotional crap that stops people from actually like doing the do. And so I've learned that I control my emotional intelligence through eating. That also plays into business. It also plays into my marriage, also plays into my kids. So it's hard for me to get, it's hard for people to trigger me because I've worked so hard on controlling my emotions through fitness, through eating, through my body, right? Because like there's always temptations. It's always so easy to not want to go to the gym or to not follow your meal plan, your nutrition. I basically have mastered that skill set and I've applied that to business.
I love it because like I also like I lift every single morning, right? But I used to before my business, what I do is like I'd take like I'd go like on, off, on, off, on, off. And now that it's just like if I wake up in the morning, I don't wake up as early as you. That's crazy, 4 a.m. I wake up at like 6:30 and then I just work out until like 8:30 and
Yeah,
then but like my entire day is different. It's like what I call a keystone habit almost, like where it's
yeah,
like if I do that habit, every other part of the habits of the day happen. If I don't do that habit, the entire day is screwed. Like just from the beginning. Like
yeah,
it's very hard to get the like it on track.
yeah,
And it's a very similar story to me in the sense of like when I started lifting when I was 18. I'm like, this is to get girls, and now it's more like,
yeah,
no, this is to like keep myself on track of the stuff I need to get done today,
yeah,
right? Because it's like I almost consider it like the first promise of the day, of like, if you're going to keep this one, if you don't keep that one, you're not going to keep any of the other ones. So I definitely see like the purpose of that 100%. I feel like fitness is like a huge thing in that.
So I'll kind of walk you through this evolution because most people, they need that, right? So what you're talking about, most people need keystone habits. They need to prove that they can be consistent. I actually think that's fundamental. I got to a place on the other side where I became so freaking dependent, like you said, on my fitness, on my nutrition, that if I didn't do it, I actually did feel lost. I felt like I was out, right? And I think that actually becomes a crutch. So then if you're so dependent on something, when you don't have it, you become weaker. That thing's making you weak. And so 2020, actually it was this year, at the end of 2021, the beginning of 2022, I realized that it actually became a problem. I was so consistent. Let me put this into in perspective here. So February, like 3rd or 4th of 2019, actually, let me back up a little bit. Start 2019, I decided I was going to work out every single day for that entire year. Like that was my goal. I was going to make it happen. And then February, I ended up getting sick, like really, really sick, and I couldn't get to the gym, so it stopped, right? So when I was able to regain my health after about a week, February 4th, I started working out, and I was like, okay, I'm going to work out every single day for the rest of the year, every single day. And so I did that all the way through the rest of 2019. 2020 came around. Obviously, most gyms shut down.
Pandemic.
I was very fortunate. I had a gym, so I got to continue lifting. I lifted every single day for 961 days, right? Because I was proving what you just said. I was proving this concept. I was proving it. So it was actually a year ago. It was almost a year ago to today is when that streak stopped. And I stopped it. Number one, I got stopped in my tracks because I got sick. I actually got COVID again. So that was like in between when I got sick was February of 2019 till August of 2021. Like I didn't get sick in that time frame.
Well, nonetheless, wait a minute. When did you start that? And then screw the even if you got sick, including the days you got sick, other than the days you got sick, how long of a period was that? 4 years?
No,
5
it
years?
was so 961 days. It was, I think, a little over 2.5 years. So
no, but I'm talking about like every single time you got sick. Like you said, beginning of 2019, right?
Well, I was going to, like, on the beginning of 2019, I was like, hey, I want to work out every single day. And I started for like 30 days and then I got sick. Right. And then so I stopped for probably a week. And then it was February 4th, 2019 was when my streak started. And I lifted every single day from February 4th, 2019, all the way till it was like August. It was like last couple of days of August of 2021.
Yeah. I mean, that's crazy. That's still 2.5 years. Like that's nuts. That's
Yeah,
absolute.
I was proving a point, right? I was proving to myself that I can be consistent. Like in my head, I was like, nobody's more consistent than me, but it was really just me being consistent to myself.
Right.
But I also started to realize that I became dependent on it. So throughout that whole streak, like there was lots of things like I had to do a lot of things to make sure I kept that streak alive, right? And that for me, it was actually lifting weights. It wasn't like I had to go to the gym. So that was it. That was my workouts. Again, it was my own standard. It wasn't anybody else's. It was just for me. But I started to realize that I became dependent on it, and I was like, so then I had other streaks I was doing with it. I was like stacking these streaks. I ate the same freaking meal every single day for a year as well. Crazy.
Damn.
I took a cold shower every single day. Right.
Damn.
That one again, like a lot of these streaks stopped right when I got COVID, unfortunately. But so that one was almost for 10 months. I did this thing called a breakthrough, which is something I learned from Chris Cohen, which is basically me just like getting out of my own head and like getting rid of my limiting beliefs. I did that every single day for over a year. Right. So there's all these little things that I did, but I became so dependent on this routine. And then when I got COVID, it actually was the best thing that ever happened to me. It literally put me on my ass first off, like for a month. But it stopped all the streaks. And so I came to a place where I realized I was so dependent on it. And so I came from like being super.
It was the best thing that ever happened to you?
It was the best thing that ever happened to me because it stopped all those streaks. Like I literally just couldn't, like I couldn't physically work out. I couldn't physically take cold shower. I was like very, very sick. So like I said, that was the silver lining of getting COVID for me. Is that it basically stopped all these streaks because I was like so dependent on them that if I didn't do them, then I would be mad or I would feel like, like I just needed them in order to survive. And so
interesting. So wait, I just want to break it down. So the reason why that was the best thing that ever happened to you was because it was actually becoming an emotional problem, because if you weren't doing them, then you get cranky or you might take it out on somebody. So like it was actually
Yeah.
Screwing
Or I
me.
just felt like I wasn't at my best. If I didn't work out, today, then I can't be my best. Then I felt defeated, right?
Hmm.
So I was like, if I wouldn't have done it, then it basically became dependent, right? And so you can become dependent on things, and you become weaker when you become dependent on something.
Interesting.
Yeah,
That's very, very interesting. I find it crazy that you just said that was the best thing that ever happened to you. Like
yeah.
that, I want you to go more into that. Like that, it was like affecting your life so much. Like, what did you? Was it that you figured out
I
that you
was
don't need to do that necessarily,
well, I was
or
just so focused on doing it that like it actually took away from what it originally started at, right? So it's like I would stop doing things that would continue to get me forward because I told myself that I was going to work out every single day because I was going to eat the same thing every single day. I would then take a cold shower every single day. I was doing this. I was doing the breakthrough every single day. I had to hit specific steps every single day. Like I started just stacking these habits I told myself I had to do every single day, and it just became so much that I mean, like if you ask my wife, she was like so grateful that I stopped doing those things too. That I wouldn't go out and eat with people. I wouldn't go do things because I had to make sure I hit all my habits, right? So it was taking away from actually living my life because I was just like following these habits. Which the whole point of it was to help me live my life to the fullest, not just do freaking habits.
right? That's so interesting to me.
Yeah,
So then, okay, so then what happened after that? You stopped doing the streaks and you just were like, okay, I'm
yeah,
gonna do this when it friggin' makes sense.
yeah. So again, I went from being over here as like super strict, like crazy strict, and then I realized that this was an amazing season for me to practice what I called flow, right? Having little to no structure. And so the beginning of 2022 was flow for me. Like I didn't have structure. I would get up whenever, right? Oh, back to the waking up, like I would like set my alarm at 4 a.m. Like I would get up, like no matter what.
Crazy.
And so yeah, so in the beginning of 2020, I was like, I was doing flow. So I stopped working out every single day. I would only work out like, 5 or 6 days a week, right? Which again, for me it was less. I stopped tracking my food as probably for about a month. I stopped tracking my food. Again, I've tracked my food every single day for the last 4 years.
That's crazy.
I got rid of my morning routine. I stopped reading. I just like literally just did whatever I wanted to do for the beginning of 2022. And spending money, same thing. Like there's so many different things I did, right? And I started doing whatever I wanted to do, and I started to realize that I hate that. Right? There was like no structure. I'm just like, I do not like structure. I don't thrive in structure. So I went from like being super strict to like way over here, a flow. And now, as we start to round out the end of 2022, I've definitely have like moved back more to the middle, right? So like there's now that I've had super structured and I've had like no structure, super flow, I've started to find what is actually important. What's important to have structure in, and I'm still finding it. It's not like I have it figured out. And I'll never have it figured out because it's always going to change based on the season I'm in. But I think it's important to be able to be on both sides of it so you can experience it, and that way you have a goalpost that you can kind of stay within.
That's so interesting. So like, so what is it now?
Yeah, so I would say I have moderate structure with flow, and so as my wife explains it, like if things come up and people want to go out to eat, like I'm down, man. I'm going out to eat. Like if I miss a workout, like for instance when we were in California, like there was probably 2 days when we were driving, like because we drove to California, that I didn't work out. It was totally fine. But when we got there, did I find a gym? Of course I did, right? I got to bring them to the gym, but it was totally fine. And so again, now I'm finding a way how I can actually do the things that I like to do and I want to do because they actually provide value to me and the people around me, not just to do them because I should be doing them.
I love that. That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
So cool. I love you're probably the first person where we're already at 54 minutes and we've barely talked about real estate at all, which I really like. No, I like it because I think your journey is not very real estate. Like real estate is
Yeah.
pretty new to you, like with the real estate investing that we're
100%.
really that you and me know each other from.
Yeah.
Um, so okay, 2019 we get to 2020. I'll quickly ask this though, like pandemic hits, what do you do with like gyms? I got most of the gyms around me like closed except for like
Yeah.
Planet Fitness.
So in 2019, in July of 2019, we actually had made the shift from going in person to online. So we did that
Mm,
before the pandemic happened, and that was like short story. is we had about 200 clients, and I was like, hey, this online thing is way better than in person. And without asking anybody, I'm just going to tell you guys it's better. And so I was like, instead of us being in person, we're going to be online now. And we end up losing almost all of our clients and our business essentially in 2019 because I
Okay.
believed in online training, but nobody knew what it was. Nobody understood it. And I was like, this is the way of the future. This is way better. It's a better value, better service. And we went from 200 clients to we kept 8.
Damn.
It was like it was our code before COVID happened, and that was actually a very trying moment in my life. And my wife Katie, she was like the most amazing human being I could ever ask for. She just stood by my side with it, and she was the one who actually cleaned up the mess. Man, we deal with refunds, we deal with angry clients, we deal with like group threads of our employees who were bad mouthing us because we ended up firing all of our employees with that.
Damn. Wait,
And
why'd you make that shift before the pandemic?
because I saw the writing on the wall. I saw online training was like it was just a better service, and I had
Mm,
actually got online training from. So I'd hired a personal mentor for nutrition, and like he literally changed my life and like changed the way I thought about fitness and nutrition and everything. I was like, dude, like all my clients need this. It's a higher level service. They don't have to come to the gym. They can do this from anywhere they want in the world. I was like, this is way better. But my clients again, and totally fair to them, like people hate change, and so it was me. It was my ego that got in the way. I should have asked, and actually, what I should have done is I should have just kept that service and then added this other one on. But I was just so like I wanted to go all in with it, and yeah, I learned the lesson. Right, we were sitting there and we were hemorrhaging money for multiple months because again, we still had this in-person business. We still had all these expenses, but now we had literally zero revenue coming in. So anyway,
yeah.
we ended up proving that concept. It took us about 3 or 4 months, but we finally built it back up, and we proved the concept. And so when 2020 hit, we were ready, man. Like we kept selling. So all the other gyms, they were hurting. We just kept going. So
I mean, that's amazing. I mean, you basically just preempted it, more or
we got
less.
we got lucky. I mean, I don't want to ever try to like put the impression on that I knew COVID was happening or anything like that, but I definitely believed in online training before online training was a thing. 100% like that. I will say all day long, but the COVID thing, we just got very, very fortunate, very lucky. Very
Yeah.
lucky.
I mean, that's crazy. So, okay, so you're doing it online throughout COVID, selling memberships.
Yeah.
Um, how do you hear about real estate investing not the traditional way, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
you were buying things through the bank, yada yada. What got you into like more creative real estate investing, like more into the actual realm that we live in?
Yeah, so honestly, I didn't fall into the creative real estate investing until 2021. So
Right.
my next step into real estate was going with Chris Crone. So Chris Crone's very big on YouTube, but I had a little bit more time because of COVID, and so I got online and was just searching YouTube videos, found across Chris Crone, went through all his videos, and we ended up signing for his mastermind. And he taught us a lot about mindset, and I don't like to use the word mindset, but more I would say emotional intelligence, right? Like he taught us how to be able to like a systematized way to control our emotions, and learning from
That
him,
was
we
the
learned a lot.
breakthrough thing you were talking about, right?
The breakthrough thing, yep. And so we learned a lot from him because he does real estate, but he also does business, and he also does um, the breakthrough, which is mindset stuff, and he also has a family, right? And so those are like he really resonated with me as what I call like my have it all mentor. Like he literally has it all, and
Hmm.
I found a lot of stuff through him. And yeah, so I would say that was 2020, and then it wasn't until 2021, honestly, until we met, which was in
Right.
December or November of 2021, that I actually found creative finance. So like it was like little over 2 years, probably 2.5 years after I find creative finance, which is the realm we're in now.
Right. So was it literally just Chris Crone, real estate investing, just the traditional, just get a
Yeah,
25% down payment, buy a rental, just keep doing
yeah,
that over and over and over again until
yeah,
December, until we met?
yeah. That's when I got introduced to it. So we actually didn't buy anything like creatively until this year, until 2022. So like
Were you in sub
2019,
2 before the
2020,
mastermind? You weren't, were you? I kind of
we
remember
were
this.
we were in for like 2 weeks. So we joined
Right.
in middle of November, and we came to the mastermind in beginning of December.
I remember you guys being there and you guys just
Yeah.
being like, "What in the world,
Yeah.
dude?
I was
What
like, what
is
is
this?"
wholesaling? I was like, what is wholesaling? Literally, that's how naive I was. I didn't know what wholesaling was.
Right. So, boom, you're thrown into the lion's den a little bit, but you've had so much experience with business. Like, what do you think? Do you think it's like really that much crazy different? Real estate versus gyms?
No, like wholesaling is just the gym business, except for
Right.
instead of selling weight loss, it's selling a
Oh,
piece of paper.
houses. Yeah,
Yeah,
piece of paper contracts.
that's it. It's
That's
literally
pretty
like all the marketing is the same way. It's like we talk about, we talk about direct seller. I like to break the direct seller down into like outreach marketing. So outreach marketing would be doing cold calling or doing texting or doing ringless voicemails. Right. For us in the gym industry, we would do cold messenger on Facebook. We do cold messenger on Instagram. Like that's how we built the business as well. When people talk about PPC, they're running ads on Google. We would run ads on Facebook, right? And so
hmm.
like that's how we got clients. We got clients both ways. And so like I've done all that stuff. Like, I've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on advertising, and I've done hundreds and thousands of cold messages, right? And so like
That's
I've done all
busy.
those things, but just not to a seller, right? They've always been to somebody, a prospect who wants to lose weight.
Right. It's
Yeah.
just so interesting. Like that's the thing I've heard from a lot of successful business owners. Like once you like get a successful business, it's the same thing over and over
It is
again,
the same thing.
which is so crazy to me. It's like hard for me to imagine since I basically own one business, like one
Yeah.
real business. I mean, I own rentals, but until
Yeah.
I feel like until that's a property managed business, it's more like I just have an asset.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. I'm kind of excited for that. That's why I'm kind of excited because I consider direct to seller different than agents. I think agents are like a different business almost, even though
Well,
it's the same thing.
they are, right? And
Yeah.
so because direct to seller, you have control over, right?
Right.
And so you have control over, like, if you want more leads, you just do more outreaches, or you just add more money to the thing. Agent outreach is affiliate's not the right word. It's a JV model, right? And so you're basically dependent on somebody else to bring you leads. So like in the fitness industry, a JV model for us would be, we could go to a chiropractor and say, hey, every time you bring a chiropractor, or every single time that you bring a client to us, we'll give you $25, right? That'd be like a JV model. And so at that point, I'm like waiting on the chiropractor to send me a client.
Right.
Right? You're waiting on a real estate agent to send you a client. Whereas if I just spend more money on Facebook or on Google, I get another lead that pops through my web form, then I can just call them or I can text them. Now I have control over that, or I can send them an email, whatever contact information I get from them. So you're more control that way. So it also costs a lot more, right? It costs a lot more to do direct seller. Whereas the reason why doing something like agent outreach or doing like a joint venture with a chiropractor is
Also,
appealing, doesn't cost anything,
right.
right? So
Yeah.
there's definitely pros and cons to it.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. I think there are. I like this is the one thing because I know Pace says that too, and this is the one thing I push back is like, well, what if you had 20,000 agents? That's
Exactly.
the thing. Then eventually the agent becomes the lead. That's how I think about it.
Yep.
Is like, but either way, like I get what you mean though. Like in the sense of like, in the end, you're kind of like still waiting on that agent to have
Yeah.
something in the sense of like there
Well,
is a seller out there,
there's still a medium between you and the person who's got the money, because the
right?
agent doesn't have the money, the chiropractor doesn't have the money, it's their client who has the money. And
Right.
so again, you can go around the agent or the chiropractor in a way that, like, the person who's got the money, that's the person you want to have the direct conversation with. That's the person you want to be able to influence. Whereas in the JV model, you're literally going through another person who's got access to the money.
Right. 100%. So, my man, we're hitting about an hour. So tell me what if you could go actually I'm going to ask you two question quiz. So like what's your goal right now? What's like
Yeah.
what is your on your mind? What are you trying to achieve?
Yeah. So it's funny because we did direct to seller in all of our businesses. When I say direct to seller, I mean like we just do outreach marketing, or we do paid advertising to get leads. The way we're doing real estate right now is actually the JV model. So
Yeah.
I'm going out and I'm networking with wholesalers, and I'm saying, hey, find me a good deal. And instead of me just giving you just a wholesale fee, like, I'll give you equity on this deal as well. So now you can build your portfolio. So
Hmm.
I'm making them an irresistible offer that they're not getting from anybody else. And I'm not having to go out there and actually do the marketing. I'm not having to go knock on doors or do cold calls or texting or mailers or any of that stuff, right? And so that's actually how I'm getting deals sent to me now, is other wholesalers are saying, I have this deal. It's either locked up or almost locked up. I want to sell to you. What should we do? Right. So that's how I'm getting deals now. On the other side, I am going to people who have money, right? I'm going to investors. These are people who own businesses, people who have um, money sitting in banks or 401ks or IRAs, whatever it may be. And they're not necessarily active in the real estate game, but they know that they want to put their money in real estate. but they don't want to go find deals. They don't want to manage properties. They don't want to underwrite anything. They just say, hey, I want a certain return. If you can find a return, I'll stick my money in there as long as you're managing, as long as you're part of the deal. And so I'm just marrying these two things together. So I'm doing the ultimate JV model. I'm literally bringing people who have deals to people who have money together, and I'm just like sandwiching myself in the middle. And that's literally how I'm buying deals.
And
So
what's the reason for that? Right? Because you know how to do the pipeline
yeah,
of the whatever, the prospecting directly to a customer or a seller. Is there any reason? Is it because just tell me why?
it's because
Why do
I've
you do it
never
that way?
done it before, John. Literally, I told you, like, how do I continue to play the game? I'm like, this sounds fun. I've always done direct to seller. So I'm like, I want to try
Right.
this JV model. And you don't know what I know now. So I've been doing this since the beginning of the year. I was like, I want to do direct to seller.
Nice.
Like
I love
it's
it.
not that I want to get rid of it, because now I have, again, because you know what it's like to have to build relationships and develop these things. Now I have people who I have enough people, I have enough quote unquote agents, right?
Right.
Instead of agents or wholesalers that are bringing me
Right.
deals, that I can continue to nurture those relationships, but now go start a direct to seller business, go actually have more control. So
Right.
again, it goes back to like, how do I continue to play the game? I just like, that's what gets me excited. But that's what got me excited last year. Is like, I want to go try this JV model. It's kind of fun not having to be able to, like, not needing to spend money and go text clients and nurture them and have to worry about CRMs. But now I'm like, I'm ready for that again. So
Yeah.
it's just an evolution.
100% how I'm feeling too. It's like I
Yeah.
started, like my biggest issue when I started was I tried to do both at the same time for the first time, which screwed
So
me for like a couple months. But I was really good at the direct to seller model, and now I'm like, man, I kind of miss it. I kind of
yeah.
miss like the sales process. Like direct agents, there isn't much sales. It's more analyzing and kind of just getting things flowing. So I
Yeah.
definitely get what you mean. You want to keep it fun always.
Yeah.
Um, okay, and then this is the question that I also ask at the very, very end is like, if you could go back to you right when you were starting your first gym, your first business, what would you tell yourself uh, when you were there then, knowing what you know now?
I would have talked myself out of it.
Yeah.
Totally. I was so naive. I was optimistically naive that I had no idea how little I knew about business, how little I knew, how much skill went into business. And I would have talked myself out of it. I was like, Logan, you have no idea. And at that point, I would have seen how I would have responded. Would I have accepted the challenge? Would I be like, okay, screw this, screw this guy. Like, I'm gonna prove him wrong, right? Or been like, you know what? Maybe he's right. Maybe I shouldn't go into business. Maybe I'll continue to work for somebody else. I think a lot of people need that. I think people need to be challenged to the point of their commitment level is what's going to either make them or break them. And so that's what I would have done in more situations. I would have just challenged myself to the place of it made me commit 100%, because in the beginning, I definitely wasn't 100% committed to my business when I first
Okay,
started.
I
Right?
gotcha. Now
I
I get
wasn't.
what you're saying because I was first like, wait, what are you talking about? Like, why would you would be in such a worse place if you were working for somebody else with like the skills you have. The idea is like you would have either been like, all right, screw you, future Logan, I'm gonna prove you
Yep.
wrong, or it would have happened. But either way, it would have been you're all in or not all in. That's what you're saying.
Commitment always, always is the underlying factor to success, because no matter what business you're in, everyone thinks that when they're in wholesale, like, oh, I want to be in the rental business, or I want to be in a totally different business. I want to be in the title agency business, or I want to be in the TC business. They always think businesses are different. And again, because when you're first starting, you just think that you think business is unique, and it's like you learn one thing, but once you start to understand how business works, you start to realize all businesses are literally the same.
Right.
um, Once you understand that all businesses are, like, a business is a problem, right? A problem that you're solving. If there was no problem, you wouldn't have a business.
Right.
Then like, if, for instance, if the seller knew how to get their house sold when it's crappy, then they wouldn't need you as a wholesaler to
Right.
connect them to a fix and flipper. And so, just understanding that would be the first thing. But then your commitment always is going to follow whether you're going to be successful or not. That's it. And so
I love
a
it.
lot of times I actually will tell people not to go into business, because I'm like, dude, you're not ready. Like, you're not
Mm,
ready. And I'll say that to, like, preempt them. And then they either accept the challenge and like, yeah, you know what? I'm really not ready. Or they're like, screw this guy. I'm going to show him I'm ready. Right. And then you
that's
know what
so
happens?
interesting.
Then they figure it out.
That's
So
so interesting in the sense of like that's how you would get someone to commit, or that's how you create a commitment with yourself is like
yeah,
burn the fire.
yeah.
Like that's what you think is like light that fire under them.
Yeah. People try to come to me for fitness advice, right? And so funny, they try to ask me like if I'll coach them or do things like that, and I literally almost do the same thing. I'll be like, "Go lose 20 pounds first, and then come talk to me. If you actually want to work with me, go lose 20 pounds first. Because honestly, it's not hard, but you're not committed. And you know what? How many times do I hear from people again?
Never.
Never, right? Because they're really not committed. It just sounds good. Oh, Logan, like I will solve your problem. That's what they think. They say, "Oh, Logan will solve my problem," or "Sub two will solve my problem," "Pace will solve my problems." Jamil solved my problem. Ain't nobody solved my freaking problems. Alex didn't solve my problems. Like I said, like I was very clear. Like it wasn't Alex who helped me. It was me. Like he gave me the vehicle. Definitely like he put the vehicle together, but it was me who did all that.
Yeah.
Right.
I
And I think
love
it's
it.
important for people to understand that. Like when they like, oh, Pace changed my life, or Dean Graziosi or Jamil changed my life. And those guys are actually really smart. They will never take credit for that. They will never ever take credit. Like, no, you did it. Because ultimately, here's actually what I learned from Alex. This is before he got big and famous. Is that people will be like, "Oh, I love you, Alex. I love you, Alex." But when things go wrong, guess who they blame?
Also, Alex.
They also blame Alex, right? And so that's why you'll see these guys, these really, really, really good mentors. They will never take responsibility for two reasons, right? Because ultimately, like they actually understand that it's actually not them; they're just giving the vehicle. But also, they actually don't want the responsibility because it actually takes away power from the person to be able to change their situation when they do run into problems. They will, because they're like, "Oh, like Pace told me this, and now it didn't work out, and so it's Pace's fault." If they blame it on Pace, then are they going to fix Pace, or are they going to fix themselves?
Right.
And so it's the
100%.
and it's actually how parenting works. And again, I know you're not a parent yet, but one of the things that we do with our parents or with our kids, excuse me, is I give them 100. I try to give them as much responsibility as possible. I can try to give them as much independence. Like the least I can do for them, the better those little kids are, right? And so I will look for opportunities to like, you do it. Like you don't need me, right? Like my daughter's 12 now, and she wants us to buy her things. I'm like, you have money, go buy your own stuff. You have the opportunity to work for a cleaning company. Go work for a cleaning company, right? She just got a phone. Guess who paid for her phone?
Her.
She did. She paid for the service. We made her pay for the whole service in a year in advance. Like
Hmm.
she paid the whole year in advance to get a cell phone. So I was like, I ain't paying for it. She's like, but your parents paid for it. I was like, yeah. I don't believe the same thing that my parents did when I was growing up.
Right. I've
Right?
thought about that before where I'm like, how I'm going to solve this problem is I'm going to like because I don't like the idea of my future kids having a cell phone at a really young age where I'm going to be like, yeah, you can get one, but you're going to have to pay for everything.
Yeah. It
Yeah, like
really we live in a different world. Like when we were growing up, it was a much different world. We didn't have access to a cell phone that
right.
had access to like literally like this thing has so much money in it right here. Like it's
Right.
so easy to make money on this thing. Most people use it for the wrong reasons.
Right.
But it's so easy to make money with it. I was like, it's different. Like how I grew up and you grew up are different things. Like I'm going to teach you based on what the environment is now, not what it was back then. And
Right.
my parents didn't know what I know now. Very
Right.
simple.
I love it. So cool, man. So I'm gonna leave it. Like, what should people do? A lot of newer wholesalers watch this. So like, what should
Yeah.
people do if they want to do JVs with you? Where should they reach you? Um,
Yep. So
all
you can
that
reach
stuff.
me on Instagram. That's probably the best place to reach me at Logan Lee Manzanares. If you're on Facebook, I have a so unless you're in sub two, probably unless you're going to send me a cold message, you probably won't get a hold of me. I only accept friend requests from sub two members at this time. I just get so many that I
That's
really
it, right?
yep
Okay.
yep. So on Instagram, that's probably the best place.
Okay.
Yeah,
Just
just
reach
reach out
out
to
to
me.
you, be like, what should they say? Like, because like everybody, I don't want them to be annoying, right?
Yeah,
Like what should they do? Because this is also like a thing I don't think people tell new people. It's like how how do they actually get you to respond? Because they're not going to respond to hi, right?
yeah,
Like what are some things you want in that message so that you're like, oh, I'm excited for this guy.
yeah. So I think the best way is to provide value. So without giving anything like specific, because everyone provides value in different ways, is like come at it from a standpoint of like wanting to provide value rather than trying to like trade. Like I'll give you this if you give me that. And I think that's the way most people try to do business is like they do a tick for tact. And when you're trying to do something for somebody, I always believe in like just give first and without any expectation in return. And it's really easy to see by someone's first message what if they're just trying to get something from you or if they're actually like if they care about you. Like asking questions sometimes is really valuable. Like being interested is super valuable. And that's something that anybody can do, and they're unwilling to do that. Like, hey, like tell me, like you're a buyer. How like I want to be a buyer one day. I'm just a wholesaler right now. Like, how do you even do that? Like, tell me your story. Like you doing this with me, like me telling your story, like it gives me value to be able to share my story. And so
Yeah.
that's something anybody can do, but they're unwilling to do it because they're just, well, I want to buy deals, I want to sell deals to this guy. And I'm not saying that that's not a wrong or right way to do it, but for me personally, I definitely am very much a relationship based person, and so like let's develop a relationship. So like provide value.
Love it. And then they got your YouTube. Is just look up your name, right? I'm pretty
Yep.
sure it's just look up your name on YouTube.
Yep.
And then you got your podcast, The Origin Story, guys. If you want to
Yep.
meet cool freaking people, he does a very similar podcast to me where it's talking about the origin stories of really cool people. He does it with Sam Singh, someone who's been on this podcast, I think twice now.
That's awesome.
So they're great guys. It's an amazing podcast. Go check that out. Go hit him up. Here's his Instagram again. He's amazing. You will make a ton of money. I don't know many people who offer wholesalers equity, to be honest. I'm pretty impressed with that. That's a good
Irresistible
idea.
offer, my friend.
Yeah, that is I might do that eventually too. Like where it's like I just want to because I just like you as a friend. So like I might just do it just because like you know what, let's just be friends and own a deal together,
That's
and like
exactly right.
freaking make stuff happen. So love it. I'm gonna end this one, guys. Come next week. It'll be 5 p.m. PST. I will be in Denver, so I might just be
Woo!
sitting on the floor with my laptop. I don't know if I'll have a desk in there yet, but it'll be super fun. Hit up Logan. I will see y'all next week. Let's go.